I built an AI construction contract administrator to help you manage your contracts and help your projects stay profitable. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can set up your own one for probably less than $50. And what makes this different to ChatGPT or any of the other AI tools is it has access to your project information and documents, and you can feed it your own templates and standard operating procedures so it'll act in the way you want. I set it up with 4 main use cases, but you can really change it however you want and tailor it to your business needs. It can help you write scopes of works and prepare tender packages, prepare payment claims, prepare the first draft of variations, and also provide general contract advice and guidance. It reads and responds to emails and completes tasks in the correct format that you want. Again, these were just 4 simple use cases that I thought of, but really, depending on the way you want to use it, you can get it to do whatever you want. So here's how it works. You set up a project email address. I'm just using my 2 email addresses to do this, but you could set up one for your project, like project A at construction company, whatever. And then when you set an email, so I send an email, for example, hi, our client sent us a request to install 3 additional benches. Can you help prepare a variation for this? And it responds to your email. So it says, hi, I've prepared the variation documentation on your request and our contract terms. So what it does is it looks at the request, looks at the project information. So it has access to all the project context and then goes through and prepares a variation for this. I was super lazy when I did this. I was just getting it to output an email, but you could get it to actually fill out a template and save it in your Google Drive or integrate with your SharePoint folder. So the actual first draft of the variation gets saved in the correct SharePoint folder. But I was super lazy when I was doing this. All I did is set it up to read and respond to emails. So this is the workflow in N8N, which is a simple automation software. It looks really fancy and complicated, but all it is stitching different tools together and then being able to talk to an AI service. But what I want to talk about briefly is why this is different to just getting ChatGPT to do the same thing. And to be clear, you can get ChatGPT to do something very similar. It just requires a lot of setup and repetition every time you want to do it. The way this works is you have all your project documents stored in a database. A database is basically, if you ever used an AI tool and you try to copy too many drawings into a single prompt, you'll find that you exceed the context window. All this is doing is I'm using a database called Llama Index. I'm uploading all of my project documents to that database, and then based on the task I'm asking the AI agent to do for me, it is accessing the right information. So for example, if I ask it to help me prepare a variation, it knows it needs to pull in the original request to see what scope the variation is requested to. Then it needs to look for the contract terms around variations. It needs to look at our cost rates and our cost database to help price the to help price the variation, and any other additional relevant scope to help justify it. You can't put that all into a prompt because you'll exceed the context window of the tool. So you need to create some sort of database. So I'm using the database Llama Index, super easy to set up. All you do is you basically sign up for an account and upload all your documents into it. So the second reason this is going to be better than just using a typical large language model like Claude or ChatGPT is this classifier. The classifier allows us to read what the user's request is and then determine which agent it's going to access to perform that task. We've got a variation agent, we've got a payment claim agent, we've got a scope of works agent, and we've got a general contract advice agent. Looks at what task the user is requesting and then determines should it send it to the variation agent. If it sends it to the variation agent, it knows it has to read certain parts of the project scope or access certain bits of information, which is different to if it's performing a procurement task. That specific agent as well is set up to perform a specific task. So for instance, in this agent, the variation agent, it knows you're a construction contract administrator preparing a variation for a construction project. It knows it needs to access certain bits of information, and it needs to output the variation within a certain format. So within this variation agent, it's specifying how to do the task, which is your standard operating procedure of how you want variations prepared and priced, and also the output format you wanted it. Now, again, this was me being super lazy. all it's doing after it performs this is responding to an email, but you could make it way better. You could have a folder called variations, and when it gets asked to prepare a new variation, knows it needs to go into your SharePoint, create a new folder for variation 001, needs to create a new Excel spreadsheet for pricing that variation, needs to fill that out and draft a letter. You can make these things way more complicated. For the purpose of this video, I was too lazy to do it, but you could really extend it however you want. You can actually get, instead of just preparing and responding to an email, you can get it to create first drafts and store them in your folder. It really comes down to like your creativity with how you use it. If you want more information about how I built this, you can contact me below in the video description. Or if you want to learn more about AI principles in construction in general and how to build other types of automations like this, I'll put a link in the video description to my complete guide for free on AI for construction managers.